Welcome to Getting to Know Your Sewing Machine. In this video, I'm going to walk you through all the basic components of your sewing machine so that way you can get started sewing with confidence. So let's jump right in because I know that you're excited to learn everything there is to know about your sewing machine. So the first thing you need to know about your sewing machine is that it is broken down into 3 parts. And those parts are the bed, which is the bottom part of your sewing machine where the fabric lays while you're sewing. The head, which is the top part of the machine where all of your top thread, buttons and switches and needle and everything else are located. It's really the biggest part of the machine. It does all the adjustments that you need for sewing. And the third part is the throat, and that's the space between the two, between the bed and the head. So let's talk about the bed first. So the first part of the bed that we're going to talk about is the needle or throat plate. And that is this silver piece of metal right in the middle of your machine under the needle. Okay? Now, the next thing is the feed dogs. Now, the feed dogs are these 4 pieces of metal that come up through the needle plate. And what they do is they come up and they actually are what move your fabric through the sewing machine. So they come up, they go back, they go under that needle plate and then come back up again. And you see they also move in sync with the needle. And what that does is it naturally moves your fabric through the machine without you having to do anything. After the feed dogs, we have the seam allowance guides. And these are guides to help you keep or maintain the correct amount of seam allowance while you're sewing. So I'm going to show you a couple of different placements on these guidelines. Here's kind of a middle position. And what seam allowance is it's the distance from the needle to the edge of your fabric. So as I move my fabric out, like I did just now, I have a greater seam allowance. And now as I move this direction, I have a smaller seam allowance. While you're sewing, you'll always need to read your pattern and figure out how much seam allowance you need. Then you can take your fabric and line it up with one of those seam allowance guides to make sure you keep the same amount of distance the entire time you're sewing. That's what they're there for. So, after the seam allowance guides, we have the accessory storage. Now, the accessory storage is typically the front part of the bed of your machine, and you can remove it. And once you remove it, you'll see that 1, it's hollow, but 2, it has a little door on it. And if you open the door, you can put all of your sewing supplies inside, and it makes keeping all of your sewing supplies together with your sewing machine so easy. So that is the bed of the sewing machine.